In 1903, a man named John D. Rockefeller did something that would define wealth for the next 120 years. He didn't invent a product. He didn't build a factory. He created a structure, and that structure became the infinite loop of wealth creation. Rockefeller was 64 years old. He had already built Standard Oil. He controlled 90% of American oil refining, but he saw something others didn't. The real business wasn't oil. It was the system that moved oil, the infrastructure that controlled oil, the structure that captured value at every point. He owned the oil wells, he owned the pipelines, he owned the refineries, he owned the railroads that moved the oil, he owned the banks that financed everything. Every dollar that entered the system stayed in the system. Every transaction paid him twice, 3 times, forever. This was the loop, the architecture of perpetual wealth, not creating value once, capturing value at every stage, forever. But Rockefeller faced a problem. The government saw the loop. They called it a monopoly. They called it illegal. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil broken into 34 separate companies. The government thought they had won. They thought they had stopped him. They had created competition. They had saved capitalism from itself. They were wrong. Rockefeller owned shares in all 34 companies. The breakup created competition, which drove innovation, which increased demand, which raised the value of every share. The breakup made him the richest man in history. His net worth doubled, then tripled. The loop didn't break, it multiplied. This is the first lesson of the infinite loop. The structure is stronger than the law. The system is smarter than the regulator. The loop finds a way. But Rockefeller did something even more important than the loop. He built the infrastructure for the next loop, and the next, and the next. The Rockefeller Foundation didn't just give away money. It shaped medicine. It shaped education. It shaped public health. It shaped foreign policy. It created the template for how wealth buys influence. How influence creates more wealth. How the loop becomes invisible, permanent, self-sustaining. In 1910, there was no such thing as public health in America. By 1930, Rockefeller-funded institutions defined what public health meant. They created the schools that trained the doctors, the journals that published the research, the policies that shaped the practice. The loop was complete. This is the second layer of the loop. Wealth creates institutions. Institutions shape rules. Rules protect wealth. The loop becomes the system itself. Rockefeller died in 1937. His net worth was $1.4 billion, equivalent to $400 billion today, more than Jeff Bezos, more than any individual wealth in modern history. But the loop continued. His descendants still control billions. The foundations still shape policy. The institutions still define the rules. The structure he built outlasted the man. This is the infinite part. The loop doesn't need you, it needs the structure. Now watch the loop jump industries, jump generations, jump technologies. In 1975, 2 men named Bill Gates and Paul Allen saw the loop. They were teenagers. They were reading the same books Rockefeller read. The same books every empire builder reads, books about systems, about platforms, about the architecture of control. Computers were hardware. Hardware was competitive. Margins were thin. You built a better computer, someone built a better one next month. The loop didn't work here. The value leaked away. But software could be copied infinitely. Zero marginal cost. Once written, it cost nothing to reproduce. The ultimate loop. Microsoft didn't build computers. They built the platform that ran the computers, the operating system, the layer between the machine and the user, the position of control. Every computer sold, Microsoft won. Every copy made, Microsoft won again. The hardware makers fought for scraps. Microsoft collected the rent. The loop was perfect. But Gates learned from Rockefeller. The loop wasn't enough. You needed the infrastructure around the loop. You needed to shape the rules. You needed to define the standards. You needed to make the loop invisible, permanent, inevitable. The Gates Foundation didn't just give away money. It shaped global health policy, vaccine distribution, agricultural development, education standards, the same playbook, the same architecture, the same infinite loop. In 1990, there was no global health infrastructure. By 2020, Gates-funded institutions defined what global health meant. They created the partnerships that distributed vaccines, the research that shaped policy, the standards that became the default. The loop was complete. This is the third lesson. The loop evolves, it learns. It adapts to new technologies, new regulations, new social expectations. But the structure remains the same. Wealth creates institutions. Institutions shape rules. Rules protect wealth. The infinite cycle continues. Now, 2024. The loop has evolved again. The technology has changed. The structure remains. Jeff Bezos studied Rockefeller. He studied Gates. He read the same books. He saw the same pattern, the platform, the infrastructure, the capture at every point. Amazon started with books, but Bezos knew books were just the entry point. The real business was the platform, the everything store, the position between every buyer and every seller. Then he saw the next layer. Amazon didn't need to sell products. They could let others sell products and take a percentage. They could store the products and charge for storage. They could ship the products and charge for shipping. They could advertise the products and charge for placement. Every transaction they won. Every business that used them they won again. But Bezos saw even further. The cloud, Amazon Web Services, the infrastructure that ran the internet itself. Every startup, every corporation, every government agency that used AWS paid Amazon forever. The ultimate infrastructure play, the position of ultimate control. Amazon doesn't sell products. They own the platform that sells products. They own the cloud that runs the internet. They own the logistics that move everything. They own the data that predicts everything. The loop is complete. The capture is total. But Bezos learned from Rockefeller, from Gates. The loop needs infrastructure. The infrastructure needs shaping. The Bezos Earth Fund shapes climate policy. The Washington Post shapes political discourse. Blue Origin shapes the future of space. The same playbook, the same architecture, the same infinite loop. This is the fourth lesson. The loop accelerates. Each generation learns from the last. Each adds a layer. Each makes the loop more invisible, more permanent, more powerful. Rockefeller took decades to build the loop. Gates took years. Bezos took months for each new layer. The structure is the same. The speed increases. The invisibility deepens. But there's a fifth layer, the one that makes the loop truly infinite, the one that ensures it continues beyond any individual, any generation, any technology. The financial system itself. Rockefeller owns shares. Gates owns shares. Bezos owns shares, but they don't just own shares. They shape the system that values shares, the accounting standards, the reporting requirements, the analyst expectations, the institutional investor behavior. The stock market doesn't value companies based on what they produce. It values them based on their position in the loop, their ability to extract, their ability to scale, their ability to make the loop permanent. This is the final layer, the metaloop, the system that values the systems, the structure that ensures the structure continues, the infinite loop of wealth creation, now self-sustaining, self-reinforcing, self-protecting. The craftsman builds a product. The entrepreneur builds a business. The empire builder builds the loop, the structure that captures value at every stage, that shapes the rules that protect the capture, that outlasts the builder. Rockefeller built the loop in oil. Gates built it in software. Bezos built it in everything. Each learned from the last. Each added a layer. Each made the loop more invisible, more permanent, more powerful. But who builds the next loop? Where does the infinite loop go next? Artificial intelligence, the ultimate platform, the layer that sits between humans and everything else, the position of ultimate control. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, the same pattern, the same architecture, the same race for the position of control. The AI companies don't build products, they build the infrastructure that builds products, the platform that everything else runs on, the loop perfected. But the AI loop has a difference: speed. The loop now runs in milliseconds, decisions made by machines, value captured by algorithms, the human element removed, the acceleration complete. This is the fifth lesson. The loop doesn't need human decision makers anymore. It needs human creators to build the initial structure. Then the structure runs itself. The infinite loop becomes truly infinite, self-sustaining, self-reinforcing, beyond human control. The infinite loop doesn't care about you. It cares about the structure. Build the structure and the loop runs forever, without you, despite you, beyond you. This is the final lesson. The wealthiest don't own things. They own the structure that owns things. They don't compete. They define the competition. They don't create value. They capture the value that others create. They don't build products. They build platforms. They don't build platforms. They build infrastructure. They don't build infrastructure. They build the rules that make infrastructure inevitable. The infinite loop of wealth creation continues. In every industry, in every generation, in every technology, waiting for the next builder of structure, the next architect of the loop. The question isn't whether you can build something valuable. The question is whether you can build the structure that captures value forever, the infinite loop, the architecture of perpetual wealth. The structure is waiting, the pattern is clear, the blueprint is written. The only question is who will build the next loop, and whether they will use what they build to capture or to create, to extract or to enable, to close the loop or to open it. The infinite loop of wealth creation continues. If this story changed how you see wealth, subscribe, not for more content, but for more perspective. The kind that turns observation into structure, the kind that builds the loop,